All right. That was the Edward Snowden, right? NSA, the biggest scandal we thought in U.S. history. Made Watergate look like peanuts, right? What'd I say? Like an Uno game? Yesterday. What happened yesterday that paled almost, it showed so much similarity as to the Edward Snowden leaks. Again, what happened yesterday? That dozens of newspapers around the world reported on what they are called the Panama Papers. A gargantuan leak of documents from a Panama-based law firm that specializes in creating offshore shell companies. The documents reveal billions of dollars being funneled to offshore tax havens by leading governmental and corporate officials in numerous countries. The U.S. was oddly... Now check this out. I want you to hear this, my friends. The U.S. was oddly missing from the initial reporting, though journalists vow that will change shortly. Some of these documents undoubtedly reveal criminality. Either monies that were illegally obtained and are being hidden for that reason, or assets being concealed in order to criminally evade tax debts. But the crux of this activity, placing assets offshore in order to avoid incurring tax liability, has been legalized. That's because Western democracies, along with overt tyrannies, are typically controlled by society's wealthiest, and laws are enacted to serve their interests. Now, Vox's Matt Yglesias this morning published a very good explainer of various aspects of this leak, and he makes the point very clear. I'm going to quote what he says here. Even as the world's wealthiest and most powerful nations have engaged in increasingly complex and intensive efforts at international cooperation to smooth the wheels of global commerce, they have willfully chosen to allow the wealthiest members of Western society to shield their financial assets from taxation, and in many cases, divorce or bankruptcy settlement by taking advantage of shell companies and tax havens. The thing is that it's not just Westerners. Russia was included in this as well. And just as it was quoted here, my friends, just as it was quoted here, the U.S. was oddly missing from the initial reporting of the Panama Papers. In other words, there is not one U.S. congressman, someone who holds clout, not one U.S. major corporation that has been exposed in this Panama Papers. This could be likened to the Ashley Madison, I don't want to say scandal, but the Ashley Madison leak. This is on the level of the Ashley Madison leak. But the thing is that it's not adultery in a sense of the Ashley Madison leak. It's cheating, it's lying, it's stealing, it's tax evasion, it's money laundering, and there's a huge paper trail that has led to Russia. My question is this: who unleaked it? Who unleashed it? Was this a setup to get Putin back for providing a safe haven for Snowden after the WikiLeaks, after the NSA scandal? Was the Obama administration plotting and planning the entire time to get Russia back? Well, I'll tell you what, it looks like it, because Russia is the main player as to this scandal, the Panama Papers. But there are other nations that are included. That includes China. That includes President Xi Jinping, a relative, some family members of the actual president of China. That includes, I don't know if they meant for this one to happen, but frankly, the Obama administration probably did not care by this time. It includes the president of Ukraine as well. Ukraine president under fire over Panama Papers. Oh, he's looking concerned. He is looking concerned. He walked out on an interview today, and now you have a major uprising in Ukraine at this very moment that you're tuning in live to try to oust him from office because of this scandal. Let me read a little bit of this article to you. The Associated Press reported Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko found himself in a political storm Monday after leaked documents from a Panama firm pointed to his offshore assets, with some adversaries calling for his removal from office. It's not just his adversaries. Again, there are people in Ukraine right now on the streets calling for his removal from office as president. Poroshenko, a candy magnate who won election in 2014, insisted Monday that he has done nothing wrong and hasn't managed his assets since being elected. But Ole Lyshko, leader of the Radical Party, said Monday that the trove of data on offshore financial dealings revealed by an international media consortium has implicated Poroshenko in alleged abuse of office and tax evasion. In other words, you have leaders of nations who tell their people pay their taxes or else, and you have these same people who are evading taxes by the billions into offshore accounts. And not only that, it very well may include, but it does include money laundering, criminal activities, and more. I have a soundbite. I'd like to give you some additional information with regards to the Panama Papers. Just give me one moment as I get it here. Here it is. This is called The Panama Papers, Victims of Offshore. The Panama Papers, again, is a global investigation into the sprawling secretive industry of offshore that the world's rich and powerful use to hide assets and skirt rules by setting up front companies in far-flung jurisdictions. Based on a trove of more than 11 million leaked files that just came out today, the investigation exposes a cast of characters who use offshore companies to facilitate bribery, arms deals, tax evasions, financial fraud, and drug trafficking. Behind the email chains, invoices, and documents that make up the Panama Papers are often unseen victims of wrongdoing enabled by the shadowy industry. So here is a soundbite. Let's play it. Some more information on the Panama Papers.
Over the past 3 years, Syria's Air Force has rained death on more than 21,000 civilians. Their bodies ripped apart by exploding barrel bombs, missiles dropped on homes, businesses, bus stops, even hospitals. These war crimes have been well documented. Not so the part played by the shadowy world of offshore finance. Behind the scenes, companies using offshore tax havens were accused of supplying fuel to the Syrian Air Force. In 2014, multiple governments, including the UK and US, issued bans on doing business with these companies. But now, a new global investigation has revealed that a Panamanian firm helped these companies operate as attacks in Syria continued. That firm, Mossack Fonseca, is a key player in a sprawling, secretive industry that the world's rich and powerful use to hide assets and skirt rules by setting up front companies in far-flung jurisdictions. More than 300 journalists trawled through millions of leaked records from Mossack Fonseca to expose an alarming list of clients involved in bribery, arms deals, tax evasion, financial fraud, and drug trafficking. Behind the invoices, emails, and paper trails are real victims. In Russia, businessmen kidnapped orphan girls as young as 13, raped them, then sold them to others for sex.
After this rape, I was aching all over. I started very much fearing men. I felt as though they wanted only one thing, only sex with me. When I was taken into a foster home, I felt as though my foster father would rape me if I'm left alone with him.
One of the alleged ringleaders was a client of Mossack Fonseca's. When the firm discovered their client was a pedophile, they decided they were not legally obliged to report his offshore business activities to authorities. In Uganda, a company that wanted to sell a prospective oil field paid Mossack Fonseca to help it avoid $400 million in taxes. It was simple paperwork. The company's address was changed from one tax haven to another. In a country where 1 in 3 people live on less than $1.25 a day, $400 million represents more than the government's annual health budget. Uganda spent years in court trying to force the company to pay its taxes. Meanwhile, hospitals in the shadow of the oil field lacked funds for even the most basic equipment. Patients slept on floors. They were asked to bring their own medical supplies, like sterile gloves and cotton balls.
It was a surprise to me because I expected all this equipment to be at the health center. When all these things are not there, nurses say we cannot work on you. At times, we are forced to leave and return home unattended to. Some women have lost their lives and babies.
Uganda ranks among the worst 10 countries in the world for high maternal, newborn and child mortality rates due to a lack of access to good healthcare. The offshore industry has recently come under fire for enabling dubious activities like these. But firms like Mossack Fonseca have helped clients continue to operate behind a veil of secrecy. Until this shadowy world is held accountable, international criminals will keep doing business, tax dollars will be dodged, and bombs will continue to fall.
So in a nutshell, the Panama Papers is the biggest leak we've ever seen on how global corruption and tax evasion is facilitated. Now, I want to give you some additional updates and headlines with regard to the Panama Papers. Mass protests are now happening also in Iceland. Iceland is now calling for the prime minister to quit as it happened. The biggest ever leak of secret information involves 11 million documents from Panama law firm Mossack Fonseca. The Kremlin as well, which is well, it's where Putin's at, over in Russia. Kremlin dismisses revelations in Panama Papers. What are the Panama Papers again? We've just we shared that with you, but I want to give you again some updates. It says here the United States Department. Listen now, my friends. I find this extremely fascinating. I find what I find fascinating, besides the fact that this has now become the biggest leak in history. The biggest leak ever seen as far as global corruption and tax evasion is facilitated. What I find fascinating about this is that there has not been, and I quote, there has not been any U.S. person, corporation, politician, or the like that are included in this list of leaders that have been busted in this Panama Papers leak that just came out today. I find that fascinating. And what I also find fascinating is that the United States Department of Justice has said that it is studying the reports from 107 global news organizations chronicling information contained in a massive cache of files from the Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca. In other words, the U.S. is going to go out of their way, and this was reported earlier, to do investigation as well to see who else was part of this scandal. Russia being the head nation right now as to the one who is the most guilty in this case. Now, it says here, the United Kingdom, The Guardian, the BBC have led reports on the 11.5 million files, described as the biggest leak in history. A British banker who spent 2 decades living in communist North Korea set up a secret offshore finance company allegedly used by the Pyongyang regime to help sell arms and expand its nuclear weapons program. The papers, these Panama Papers show this as well. Also, several of the donors, MPs, and financiers who supported David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, rise to power in the UK, have had links to the UK's network of tax havens. This is all what the Panama Papers have revealed just today. Also, what they revealed, that a big element of The Guardian's first day coverage related to claims of great wealth swirling around Russia's President Vladimir Putin, much of it connected to a close friend of his, Sergei Rodigan, a cellist. Russia's government has dismissed the reports as unfounded and based on Putinophobia. Oh dear, we got a new phobia? Putinophobia? Also, Iceland's prime minister faces a vote of no confidence after the files disclosed offshore holdings linked to him and his wife. He has said that there is nothing new in the reports, but walked out of a TV interview when quizzed on it. British tax investigators have written to The Guardian and others seeking the files so that they can investigate possible offshore tax evasion. Downing Street has refused to comment on information in the file showing David Cameron's father, Ian. He also used offshore techniques to avoid paying United Kingdom tax. Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko faces calls for investigation from MPs following allegations about his offshore dealings. And of course, the company in Panama who is the target of this major leak in tax evasion history, Mossack Fonseca, they have said that they cannot comment on individual cases, but says it is responsible member of the global financial and business community and has broken no laws. Oh, my friends, this is very interesting. Again, my question is this. Is the U.S. behind it? Did the U.S. set this up? Has it already been simmering for the past couple of years because of the leak of, well, I should say because of WikiLeaks, Edward Snowden, and the safe haven that he is in with Russia and how Russia utilized WikiLeaks to their advantage? Is this now this tit for tat, but on a level unseen before? Governments across the world began investigating possible financial wrongdoings by the rich and powerful on Monday after a leak of 4 decades of documents from a Panama law firm that specialized in setting up offshore companies. The Panama Papers. You're going to be hearing a lot about this in mainstream media. I would hope. It's got to be out there. It's going to be out there, guys. The Panama Papers revealed financial arrangements of global politicians and public figures, including friends of Russian President Vladimir Putin, relatives of the prime ministers of Britain, Iceland, Pakistan, and the president of Ukraine. While holding money in offshore companies is not illegal, journalists who received the leaked documents said that they could provide evidence of wealth hidden for tax evasion, money laundering, sanctions busting, drug deals, or other crimes. If this was done, I mean, let's think about it for a second. If this was done by the U.S., this was a setup. What's going to happen next? I mean, we're looking at is this like a proxy war on a whole new level? I say war between Russia and the U.S. in the 21st century.